If you had it all figured out today, there would be nothing to learn tomorrow. Enjoy being a work in progress. Unknown. It's my birthday. Or it's kind of the podcast birthday. 2 years ago, on April 22nd, 2020, I launched the first episode called Take the Leap. I want to share with you all that I have learned on this new venture, so stick around. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. I am thrilled to have reached the milestone of 100 episodes and 2 years of podcasting today. It is amazing how fast time flies because it does not feel like 2 years. I began thinking about doing a podcast back in late 2019, thinking that I would get to it someday when I had time. Well, the pandemic left me with nothing but time for a little while, and it was a great time to get started. I wanted to share the knowledge that I so enjoy giving to people in our store, Zeus's Closet, when clothing brand customers would come in and tell me about their business and brand. I would get so excited because after 20 years of entrepreneurship, I really have learned a lot, much of it the hard way. And the idea of being able to share my knowledge and maybe help someone else was thrilling. I have learned a lot over the past 2 years as well about myself, about podcasting, about social media, business, funnels. Wow, the list just goes on and on. In some cases, it was something I learned about life as a whole. I want to share some of those with you. First, you don't have to have it all figured out. Like with starting any business, you can be tempted to try to figure it all out before you get going. But this honestly just slows you down or helps you continue to procrastinate. If you let this one thing go and just start, you will learn so much more as you go and move forward. When I initially began to really consider seriously launching the podcast in March of 2020, I did do a little research around equipment and what would be the best day to put out an episode. I read that Tuesday or Friday were good days. Each day seemed to have its own unique pros. I went with Friday, honestly, because it gives me more time to work on an episode during the week. Looking back, my original show artwork was really lackluster. It did not grab your attention. It was a JPEG of an embroidered image of me that we did for The Office several years ago. It was not great. The embroidered version was great, but as a cover art for a podcast, it was not that great. But it was a place to start. I knew I could change it in the future, but I wanted to not let that hold me back. I could have spent a lot more time on that and, of course, money. I am now on the third version of my podcast cover art, and if you have been listening for a while, you know that I changed the name of the podcast earlier this year. One of the things that I learned later after I joined Clubhouse in early or late 2020, and I began to go into rooms around podcasting, I learned that I should have had a podcast launch plan and, all of these episodes already recorded. But, ignorance is truly bliss. So me not having any idea about those things, I just jumped in feet first and just did it. And I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't have a major plan. And a lot of times that's what we have to do to just start. Just get in it and start it. I did know, though, what I wanted the podcast to be about. I knew I wanted to serve entrepreneurs who were a bit newer to their entrepreneurial journey. I knew I wanted to educate through my own knowledge and the knowledge of others. So I had a loose plan, but I simply did not have it all figured out. And some days I really still don't. I have plans that I work for each season, but sometimes I'm still figuring that out as I go as well. And that's okay. That is okay. I work each week to bring you content that you can use in your business and to introduce you or help you around concepts that will help your business grow and survive. Some things that I need as I embark on this podcasting endeavor, and some that I wish I would have known when I was in the earlier stages of my business. So again, you don't have to have it all figured out. It is okay. Another thing that I've learned through this process is consistency is key. I hear this word all the time. I hear it when you're talking about social media and posting. It's not that you post every single day, but just be consistent. If you're posting 3 times a week or once a week, be consistent. I have not always been the best with consistency. I've not gone to bed at the same time each night since I was probably 8 or 9 years old, when my mom tells me I went to bed every night at 9 p.m. I don't get up at the same time each day. I get up to take the kids to school, but when they're out for a break, I typically dial my wake up time back an hour or so. I do really admire those individuals, though, who are so consistent with their sleep routine. I'm truly a work in progress in this area. This podcast, though, is my new baby. I have consistently put out an episode for 2 years. I think because I continue to show up, the podcast continues to grow. Our businesses are the same way. When we show up consistently for our customers, they will continue to use our services and refer us to family and friends. They will show up for us. I once again also learned the importance of outsourcing. You all have heard me talk about the importance of sticking with what you're really good at and outsourcing everything else. Well, editing audio is not my forte. I tried a couple of times and just could not figure out the software. So instead of staying stuck and getting frustrated, I have found a wonderful editor on Fiverr. I'm now looking for a blogger to convert my episodes into blogs. And I'm sure there will be other things that I need to outsource. It may be posting to Instagram. I recently outsourced posting to TikTok. I actually really do enjoy Instagram a lot, though, so I haven't outsourced that. I really, really enjoy it. So it's, again, really about outsourcing those things that you don't enjoy or that take up so much bandwidth of your time that you could be using that time for something else that perhaps bring in more revenue for your business. So outsourcing. Don't forget outsourcing. Next up, everything does not have to be perfect. Now, this is one I discovered a long time ago. I already know this, but this is just a quick reminder for all of us, because sometimes I can lapse into that of, oh my gosh, I stumbled over my words. I need to re-record that. Or that wasn't good enough. And that will stop you from going forward and moving forward. So just keep in mind, as a reminder, everything does not have to be perfect. Of course, you always want to put your best foot forward, but perfection is a fallacy. It does not exist, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Next, don't overthink things. I mentioned earlier how I started down the rabbit hole of trying to find all the right equipment and downloaded software that I could not figure out. And one day I was talking to Ethan about how I am just not this technical, and he reminded me of Anchor. I'd heard of it before, but it had completely slipped my mind. But this has been the easiest way for me to produce this podcast. I can record from anywhere, and it works for me. Now, does it have all the bells and whistles that some podcasters use? No, but I'm okay with that for now. I can always change it down the road, but right now my goal is to reach people, and I am reaching my people either way, and that is what matters the most. So we don't have to overthink things. In our businesses, if we're trying something new, we don't have to overthink it. I also like to refer to this as analysis paralysis, because you analyze things to the nth degree and you don't actually move because you're thinking and thinking. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with thinking through what you're going to do. But if you keep rethinking it, rethinking about it, and rethinking about it, then you're just overanalyzing. And it's time to make some moves forward, because then you'll actually learn something in the process of moving forward. Maybe you'll learn that you do need to analyze some more. Maybe you'll learn that it's perfect the way it is. Maybe you'll learn that you do need to recalibrate, do some recalculations, change your prices. Who knows what you'll learn? But you'll learn something in the movement and not being paralyzed by analyzing things. And last but not least, don't be afraid of change. We all know that change is inevitable, but that does not make us like it any better. Like I mentioned previously, in 2 years, I have changed my cover art, the name, and even the format of the show. I have changed my intro, my interview questions for my guests, how I batch my interviews, and how I plan out my seasons. We see this in our businesses as well. It can be hard to move in a different direction in your business, even when you know it will be better for the business. It can be hard to let go of a product or service we offer in our businesses, even when we know it is not serving the business fully. It can be hard to let go of difficult or rude customers because we wonder how we will make up the difference in revenue. But I promise you will, because your energy will be lighter. You will have more time freed up for those customers who genuinely value your services or products. I can recall once that we had a team member who we knew something was not quite right, but we couldn't put our finger on what was happening. Nothing led to us firing the team member until we were able to determine that he had stolen from the company. This was hard because we thought this change in personnel would cause us to lose another team member, maybe two, because they were close. But after the change was kind of made for us, because of course you can't keep a team member who steals from you, everyone else on the team stepped up unbelievably. The other team member did not leave. If anything, their light was able to shine even brighter, and they are still with the company today. So again, don't be afraid of change. Change can be a good thing. For this podcast, there are more changes to come, changes that I think will enhance the learning for all who listen. But who knows? I could also be wrong, so there's also nothing wrong with changing back. I am, of course, open to feedback as well, so never hesitate to email me and let me know what you think about the show. You can email me at monica@monicaallen.com. Or, speaking of feedback, I have a survey that I would love for you to complete. It is really short and will not take you more than 3 minutes. I really desire to get to know my listeners better, and thus the survey. The link is in the show notes. If you submit a survey, you will be entered to win a $50 Amazon gift card. So just 3 minutes of your time for a chance to win. And just before I wrap up, another thing that has come out of the past 2 years for me is the word legacy. This word has become my life word. I never expected to determine a life word. I simply would come up with my one word for the year. But somewhere in the past 2 years, I've come up with this life word, and the life word is legacy. And with everything that I do, I tend to think about what type of legacy does this leave for my family, for my friends, for me, for the earth? What type of legacy am I leaving? And so this podcast is really, really important to me because I want other business owners, other people to be able to leave a legacy for their families, for generations to come. So I have the goal of bringing you content that will help your business survive, but will also help you leave a legacy for your family for many, many generations to come. And I wanted to just add that point because that was a big, big shift for me. And it is a huge shift in my thinking each and every day. Again, it is so great to reach this milestone. And remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. Consistency is key. Outsource the tasks that frustrate you or simply don't light you up. Everything does not have to be perfect. Don't overthink things, and don't be afraid of change. I am looking forward to sharing more interviews and content with you. If you are new to the podcast or you've been listening for a while, thank you so much for tuning in. Join me on Instagram and TikTok at Become Your Own Boss Podcast. And don't forget to complete the survey. And if you don't mind, share, rate, and review the podcast wherever you listen. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.